Thank you for joining us for the Success in Your Aerospace Career session, featuring an HR professional and an employee in the early stages of their career. The goal of this session is to help you all gain a better understanding of how to get your foot in the door, what to watch for as an applicant, and tips for your success in your career. You'll also be able to type in questions into the chat and we'll address those at the end. Today we have Katie Corey, HR Manager at ATC Manufacturing, and Tristan Jaden, Customer Service Engineer at Acrofab. To start, I was hoping that Katie and Tristan would be able to take a moment, introduce themselves, let us know a bit about how they got to be in the position that they're currently in, and just let us know any other relevant information about themselves. So maybe Tristan, can we start with you? Would you be okay giving us some background on who you are, what you do, and how you came into your role?
Yeah, sure. So I actually was originally from Bozeman, Montana. I graduated there with a degree in mechanical engineering. Then kind of was looking to get outside of Montana, and Spokane area kind of called to me. So we ended up landing here in Spokane, being part of the I-90 corridor here. It was a lot of industry and a lot of connections in the area. So I was able to get plugged in and landed a position here at Acrofab in a customer service kind of role as an engineer. It was a very interesting transition between being more technical to being now more customer focused. Now I'm kind of that interface between engineering and customers. I work a lot with like newer projects where people are trying to work on design for manufacturability. They're trying to bring it in to actually produce the product now. Being a contract manufacturer, we see all sorts of different projects, whether that's, aerospace or medical, different things coming in every day, working on, different kind of specs, different kind of requirements, and trying to figure out how the best we can actually produce the product. So yeah, it's kind of my story and how I ended up here.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that background. Katie, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Would you be able to take a moment and just introduce yourself, give us some background on who you are, what it is that you do, and how you came into your current role? You're muted, just so you know.
Having some major technical difficulties getting on here. I'm Katie Corey, and I've been here at ATC Manufacturing for 6 years. And before that, I spent many years actually as a dental assistant and also working in the insurance industry. And I loved both. When I came over here to Spokane area, I landed this job here at ATC, which was a huge switch, dental assisting into aerospace, who'd have thunk? Just kind of a testament to, you never know where your path is going to take you. But I came over here when I started ATC, it was a relatively small company, and I started doing a little bit of everything, safety, even just filing, helping out in HR. And while I was doing this, I finished my degree in HR management and took over the whole department. And since I've been here, I've also, our company is under the umbrella of another corporation that is also with a few other business units, and I kind of oversee the HR for those other companies as well. So it's just gradually been growing and growing, and I do love it. I love working with people, solving problems. I love policies, and so it's been great. I love it. I love the challenge and learning new things.
Policy loving is probably perfect for an HR professional. Awesome. Thank you guys both so much. So the folks that are tuning in today are high school students for the most part. So just keeping that in mind, I'm wondering if you guys could each give your best advice that you can offer to job seekers. Katie, if you want to start, and then Tristan, we'll go to you next.
Okay. So my best advice for job seekers is, one, have a resume. Resumes are really important. That's kind of like, our first window into, who you are. And Even if you're a teenager and you're out looking for that very first job, bring that resume with you, submit that resume. Even the adults that come in and are applying for jobs here, sometimes they don't have a resume, and I tend to not consider them because they're not prepared. So be prepared. Find out about the company that you're applying for. Do a little research. When you're searching for a job, that's a full-time job. And spell check your resume, and make sure that you're using proper grammar and that you are spelling correctly. And so that's number one right there. That's really important, and that's going to get you ahead of the game.
Thanks, Katie. I will say that the HR rep from yesterday's session also said the exact same thing. Spell check is very important. Tristan, did you have some good advice? I know that you recently came into working in the industry. So what advice can you give new job seekers?
One thing I definitely would say was just being persistent, not giving up, and keeping yourself healthy during the search. I know during kind of coming off of COVID, it was kind of hard for a lot of job seekers out there, and making sure that you are in a good headspace and doing your research and not skipping sleep in order to apply for more jobs or anything like that. It's very important to realize that the right position will come in time, and that you'll find it. You don't have to feel like it's a huge rush or feel like you are going to miss an opportunity if you don't stay up and submit that resume. So yeah, that's an important one.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Great. Thanks, you guys. Katie, this question is kind of for you. It's along the lines of what we just spoke about, but I'm wondering if you have some tips and tricks, or know what ways an applicant can kind of stand out during their job search, whether it be like a tip to put on your resume or an interview tactic. Are there standout applicants?
So the things that stand out for me are, one, dress nice. Even if you're going to go interview at just a dirty, grungy auto mechanics place, put on nice clothes, because a first impression counts, and I'm going to remember. You don't have to, go get your hair all done and wear heels or anything like that, but dress nice and smell pleasant. Don't wear a ton of perfume, and you don't want to over perfume yourself, but smell nice. Body odor leaves a lasting impression as well. And so those things matter. Bathe and be nicely groomed, because all of those things, good or bad, leave a lasting impression. Brush your teeth. And these things may sound kind of silly, but we remember. And those may be the kinds of things that you don't always think about, because when we get into the routine of our daily stuff, we forget about some of those little things. But sometimes it's the little things that really, really matter. When it comes to your resume, don't write it like it's a job description. I already know the job description for the position that I am posting. So don't repeat what I already know. I want to know about you. Tell me about your skills and your accomplishments, because I want to see what you can do, so that I know if you're going to be a great fit for this position that I'm posting, and if you're going to be a great fit for our company. So tell me about you. I want to see your personality come through in this resume, so that I can then see if I want to bring you in for a job interview. That's really important. But I don't need to see any gimmicks on your resume. I need it to just be really easy to read. Again, spell check and grammar. And I'm going to be totally honest, if I see spelling errors, you're not coming in. I'm not going to bring you in for an interview. And that may seem harsh, but if you're not going to have this really go through it with a fine-tooth comb, I'm going to assume that that's how you're going to be with your work. So that's why that's really important. But those are some of just the important things to do on a job interview and on your resume that are going to stand out. And really, when you think about it, those kinds of things aren't that hard, but those are the things that are going to win you a job interview and that are going to do well in your job interview.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it sounds super easy to do, and it's just those little things that might seem kind of obvious, but definitely make a huge, huge difference when you're trying to get in and get an interview with somebody. Something that we talked about in the last session that I'm curious about getting your opinion on, Katie, and Tristan, is how does your company view high school applicants? Is there a difference? Is there some sort of preferential treatment when it's high school versus college? And maybe I'll start with you, Katie, and I'll ask Tristan the same question.
Well, I think previously we wanted somebody who had graduated already, but there is a change now because we want to get people coming in that are going to grow with the company. We want that loyalty. And if we can get people that are younger, maybe with some programs, with some internships and things like that, or apprenticeship programs, because the world has changed. And we want employees that are going to be long lasting. And we're finding that if we can get people when they're younger and get them on that trajectory with the company and get them on a career path, because we do have a lot of manufacturing companies have the kind of jobs within the company that people really can grow and stay forever with the company when they start with that entry level job, and then they grow, they learn some new skills, and then they stay. That we can do that when they're in high school. There are certain jobs that they can't do until they turn age 18. But there is a lot of interest in getting people when they are in high school. In fact, we want to start educating kids when they're in middle school about these jobs, so that they know, hey, when you get a little bit older, you can come and start working for us and then stay with us. So there's a huge amount of interest about getting youth while they are in high school. So don't be afraid to come and find out about us, submit your resume, and find out about all these different types of jobs. I think that that's something that previously we haven't done a good job about advertising about the different positions that we have here, because it's just been this blanket manufacturing. But there is a lot of fantastic jobs here, super cool equipment, and long-term positions here in manufacturing.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tristan. What would you say in regards to, is there some sort of difference? Does it matter if you have a college degree versus a high school degree? What would you say?
So kind of echoing what Katie said there, that's honestly what we're finding as well, is that a lot of our most loyal and best performers on the team have actually been internal, people who started working when they're in high school, even a part-time position started, and then they just transitioned, they matured, they graduated high school, they decided they wanted to stick it out, and they continued working here. And even a bunch of them, worked part-time while they went to college, got their degree, and even elevated even further in the company through this. And those are our best performers. Those are the people who are the most loyal and doing the most work for the company, really. And so we really do encourage younger people to get involved, because the earlier you get involved, the more you can kind of build that knowledge base, and you can build your background up, just to ensure that you're as equipped as you possibly can be when you're going into the next job interview, or just another position in the company, an internal interview. And that's really just what it comes down to, is building up that employee base, that loyalty in them early, so you can ensure that your employees are as loyal and as hardworking as you want them to be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. And kind of switching gears, my next question's for you, Tristan. You're a little under a year into it. Is it your first year working in this field?
Yep, first year in manufacturing for sure.
Awesome. So I'm curious, like, what are some things you've learned in your first year on the job? What is surprising? What's new? What did you not expect? What's happening this first year for you?
Yeah. So honestly, the most like surprising thing that I realized was that soft skills are valued a lot more than I initially thought. I always thought it was like, what programs you're comfortable working with, or what you can physically do for the company. But the biggest value that I've felt people have complimented me for was like a courage to voice your opinion. Like you're a newer employee and you're brought into a big meeting, it doesn't feel like you have much say or much sway in the conversation. But having that courage and willingness to go out and actually put yourself out there, say, this is what I think, and you can see some really great things. And a lot of people, aren't willing to do that or don't think that they're in a position to say those things. But when you do that, it really shows. It shows an initiative, and it shows a kind of a dedication or a willingness to solve the problem, or even a willingness to be wrong. You be wrong and have that conversation about why you're wrong, and that itself is a growing opportunity. And those are really, really valuable skills to see and find, and things that I totally underestimated when I first started.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for your insights there.
Yeah.
Question for both of you. What is the thing that you love most about the work that you do? Like, why do you enjoy your job? What would you say to somebody who's kind of maybe thinking about going into the manufacturing industry, whether it be through apprenticeship, internship, going to college, whichever route takes them there? What would you say that you would encourage them through what you love about the work that you do? And we can start with you, Tristan, since we just finished with you.
Yeah. Honestly, the thing that I absolutely love about manufacturing so far is just the variance that I see. I come into work every day and it feels like I could be handed 25 different projects, and I have no idea which one's going to be the priority, which one's going to be, the new hotness coming up in the world. And so it's a lot of fun to kind of have that unpredictability. You're not making the same part over and over again. You're varying between what you're doing, and it seems to be that the manufacturing world is moving that way. There's a variance in suppliers that is really happening. You aren't just always working with the same people. You aren't always working on the same projects, and that is definitely keeps you invested, keeps you interested, and keeps the work not monotonous, I guess.
Yeah, definitely versatility in the day-to-day is so nice to have in a job. It's always nice to be learning. So, Katie, what would you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed. There's always something new to learn. And that's true from the entry-level positions up to senior management. Everybody's moving at a fast pace. Which I really enjoy being busy, and I'm busy all the time. And that's true for everybody. We're up against deadlines, and so there's no downtime. Everybody's moving, and there's people who come in at the entry-level positions. We've got a lot of our supervisors and middle management, they started at entry level and they worked their way up. And that is something that I think is fantastic about this. You can start at the ground level and work your way up. There's a path. There's defined career paths for those who want to take that. And I love seeing that. That is great in manufacturing. You can come in with no experience and then gain all the experience that you want. And you don't get to do that in every profession. And that is something that I think is wonderful here. And it's there if you want it, but then there's also some employees who like coming in knowing what they're going to do every day. That's very comfortable for them. And they do that. We also have those positions as well. So it can fit every type of personality. And we can cater to that. And then we also have just, again, really cool equipment, really awesome things to see back there. The technology is amazing. It's always changing, super fast-paced stuff. And some office settings, it's just like, I would be so bored. And then the people, there are so many cool people, just all different types of people that you get to meet, and it's really exciting. And I wish that I hope that people take the opportunity to go out and find that out about manufacturing, especially aerospace manufacturing. It's just really, really cool.
Yes, agreed, definitely. The next question that I have, so for those students that are maybe they've gone through the interview process, they've gone through the application process, outside of the tips and tricks for getting the job, what advice do you have for somebody on their first day on the job? What advice would you give somebody before their first day? I'll start with you, Katie, and then we'll go to Tristan.
So before their first day, don't freak out. A new job, a new job is hard. It's intimidating. Expect to be tired. Expect to just you're going to be absorbing a lot of stuff. Be humble. You're going onto somebody's new territory and you're going to have a lot of ideas, but just go and absorb, learn, listen. And soft skills are so important. I don't care what job you have, but know how to communicate, ask questions, and listen. And then take criticism, because none of us are perfect. And we're all going to make mistakes. And when we do, suck it up and then accept that you're going to have to change things. We all do. And unless you're in your own house and you're the master of your own kingdom there, you're going to have a boss, and you're going to have somebody who's going to tell you that you need to do some things different. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that, okay, I'm going in one direction until somebody tells me I need to turn a corner. And that's just how you do it. And so being able to take that direction and being able to accept change, that's a good thing. That's what you need to do in the workplace, is to be flexible. And so when you're ready, when you're gearing up for that first day, be prepared to make some changes, and that's fine. And so then when you're starting that job, be humble. Don't go in there expecting, well, I'm going to give them all these great ideas. No, they're going to give you some great ideas, and accept that and go with it. And then it'll be great. And then you'll get a routine.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of talked about the soft skill set in our last session too. And what I'm hearing a lot of is that those of you that are in the engineering field and those technical fields don't necessarily expect those soft skills to be as important as they are. So that's definitely a common theme for everybody that's watching. Having good quality communication skills is important regardless of what field you go into, whether it be HR,
across
marketing,
the board.
Doesn't matter.
Construction, every industry.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Tristan, what would you add to this? What advice would you give somebody on their first day?
I think one of the biggest things was that it's okay not to know things. You're going to be doing a lot of, especially on that first day, you're going to be doing a lot of absorbing. You're going to be doing a lot of push and pulled all over the place. And it's okay to just ask questions. And it's also okay if you don't have any questions. I know a lot of first days, they always ask you, like, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? And sometimes your brain is just racing so quickly that you're not actually able to develop any questions. So, if you have to gather your thoughts at your lunch break in order to make sure you have it completely grasped and you need those questions, that it's okay. It's okay not to know. It's okay not to have questions. Just make sure that you are communicating whatever's happening, whether that's you have a ton of questions or you have nothing. And make sure that you're whoever's training you or whatever rings you're being put through, that you are trying to absorb as much as possible, because those first days are crucial to learning and to really showing that that you belong there and that you want to be there. Take the initiative to really grow yourself rather than asking them to force you into growth.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I myself, I consider myself a new professional. And I would say that if you have questions that you're going to want to ask when you get to your first day, you can have them prepared before you go in so that you don't forget when you get there, because your first day probably will be pretty overwhelming regardless, because there's so much paperwork and so much that you're learning right off the bat. And so definitely have questions prepared if you know that you've got them. But if it's overwhelming, it is okay. It will be okay.
Come back the second day.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Every day is a new day. Everything will be better. The more you learn, like, you'll be learning as you go, and it'll be totally fine. I'm going to direct this next question at you, Tristan, first. What was your job search experience like? Did you have any realizations about what you could highlight about yourself through the interview process or on your resume? What was your job search like?
Job search was pretty rough just because it was happening with the whole COVID thing. So that obviously threw a whole wrench in everything. But as far as what I learned about myself during that was that just about every job that I saw posted, I had something that I could highlight about myself. It may not be something that I could specifically point to, but it was something that I should try to draw attention to, whether that was on my resume, cover letter, or in the interview, if I was lucky enough to get one. Just make sure that you are valuing yourself and valuing those skills, whatever you have that does align with what you're looking to do. You can highlight soft skills. You can highlight something that they specifically said in the job description that you think you fit with, and make sure that is kind of where you're going with your resume and with your questions. Because you may not fit all of the criteria for a lot of these jobs. They have a lot of qualifications sometimes that you don't align with perfectly, but you always can align with some of them, and that shouldn't knock you down from feeling like you have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Katie, what would you say? I don't know how many years you've been with ATC, but when you were in your job search, 6 years, is that what you said? Okay, yeah. So it might be a while since your lab job search experience, but what was it like for you? Did you find anything out about yourself, or do you have any other advice outside of what you've already imparted?
Yeah, well, and part of what I do with my job, if we've had a group layoff or something like that, I do work with those employees in their job search. So I see that process, and I do want to work with them while they're looking for another job. It's not like if somebody's let go, I'm not like, see ya, bye. I maintain that relationship, and it is hard. And I do have in my social circle, I will help people find jobs. I'm part of my HRs. I recruit, and it is a process. It's hard on my end looking for the right candidate. It's a full-time job. I wasn't kidding when I said, when you're looking for a job, consider that your full-time job until you land a job. But I do think that Tristan is right. Highlight yourself. I mean, you are selling yourself to the companies. You want them to choose you over everybody else. And so you do need to pick out those things about yourself so that they find you. And I do think that it's important to, when you're looking for the job, if you're going down and you're looking at these different companies and these open positions, if you find something that you like, that you're interested in, don't be intimidated by either the wage that they have listed or the title. If you're interested in it, apply. There's no reason why you shouldn't, because they don't know who the right candidate is. They have the position and they know in their mind, kind of what they're looking for, but until they find that person, they don't know who that person is yet. And so don't be intimidated by anything put yourself out there and apply, because you may not get picked, but if you don't apply, you absolutely won't get picked. And so there's no harm in applying, and every interview that you have is more practice for you, and you might as well hone those skills as well, because some of them will give you some really good feedback. Well, why didn't you hire me? Was there anything that I could have done to improve? And when you get one of those recruiters or HR managers that will give you that feedback, that's awesome. That is gold right there. So you might as well do it. Apply for every single position that you are interested in, and you will get some great practice, and just speaking with them is great. You might as well do it.
Yeah. And I think that's great advice. I have always been told that interview practice is always good, regardless of if you're sure about the
Absolutely.
job, always get the interview and the application practice, because it'll be good for when you in the future are searching for a job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to start with you for this next question, Katie, and then it's kind of geared more towards your field. But Tristan, if you have any insights, I'll be curious to hear what you have to say too. But say there's a student and they're not quite sure what they want to do yet for their future. Is it okay to be honest about that when you're applying and when you're in the interview? For example, I know lots of interviews, they'll sit you down and they'll say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What if the answer is, I don't know? And how honest should you be at that moment?
I'll be honest, I never asked this question because I don't know. I mean, like I said, I went from dental assisting to aerospace. I mean, who knows where they're going to be in 5 years? I think that with a lot of these questions, you can be careful in how you answer these questions. It's absolutely okay to not know where you're going to be. I think that you can answer these questions by saying things like, I'm not exactly sure where I will be in 5 years. A lot can happen in 5 years, but I absolutely know that I want to continue working. I want to continue honing my skills as, XYZ. So that lets them know that you want to continue on the path that you are on. And you can even say that I want to continue on the path that I'm on. I want to continue and cater it towards whatever field you're working on, or those kinds of things. But it's not wrong. If you're a high school student, it's not wrong to let them know that you want to do school. It's not wrong to let them know, because those are good things. It's good to do that. And an employer is not going to get scared by hiring somebody who wants to do school, because a lot of times you can do school and work at the same time. You can go to part-time. You don't need to give them all the details. And I certainly wouldn't give them all the details. They don't need to know all that. That's your business. But you can let them know, give them, highlights about what you want your life to be like. Give highlights, but let them know kind of a general direction of what you want them to know. And that's absolutely appropriate. Don't give them everything. Of course, you might try to know all the details, but don't give them all the details. Just give them the stuff that's appropriate. Give them the general direction, but cater it in a way that that they kind of want to hear,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's great advice, especially I never know how to answer that question. I get asked it in personally, professionally, and it is a hard question to answer. So I definitely appreciate those insights. Tristan, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I guess I was just going to use a personal anecdote here, because I actually was asked that question when I was interviewing at my current position here. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it's a very interesting answer, because even being a young professional, you don't exactly know until you try out the industry if you're going to love it. And so you kind of need to answer it carefully. You have to leave the possibility open that you could fall in love with this job and want to be there. You also need to leave the possibility open that, like you said, you don't actually know where you see yourself in 5 years. So you do need to handle the question carefully, because a lot of professionals will get a little scared when they hear that question. It's like, is it a 5-year commitment? Like, am I stuck doing this for 5 years? And the answer is no. You're not stuck doing anything. You need to make sure that you feel comfortable pivoting and comfortable being where you want to be in life. And that's really what the hiring process is about, is finding that perfect fit, the person who, does want to be there and will stay at the company for a long time. And so it's a sensitive subject, but I agree that I wouldn't ask that question to others normally.
In all fairness, they want to know if they can, because you're probably showing some good progress there, got some skills, smart. They want to know if they can invest in you.
Right.
It costs a lot of money to invest, upskilling, training, and that costs a lot of money. And so if they can have somebody answer that question, I love it here, I want to stay. It's like ding, 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 green light. Let's do this. If they get some of that information, well, I've been thinking about, I might want to move. I got this, I've got family in this other town that's 200 miles away. And it's like, we're not going to invest in that person. So there's reasons that they ask these questions. And depending on how somebody's going to answer, that's going to determine that career path for that employee. So there's always reasons for that. And so when they're interviewing, they can sometimes get that information up front.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
What were you going to say, Tristan?
No, I was just agreeing. That's a very valid point, because I think that is really the crux of the issue, is whether or not they can invest and whether or not they're willing to invest when you might be moving. Who knows?
Yeah, and it's definitely hard to know when you're still in high school exactly where you're going to be in 5 years. So I think that it's all fair.
Right.
We've got about 5 minutes left. So I've got just one more question for both of you guys, and it's kind of a broad question. But how did you know that this job was right for you? And how did you know that the company that you are currently with is the right company for you? And what helped you make that decision? Was it the benefits, the location? How did you come to the decision? I'll start with you, Tristan.
To be fair, I honestly still don't know. I've been here for 9 months now, and I've figured out things that I love and things that I dislike about the company. I've learned a lot being here about the culture. I love the people that I work with, and I love the work that I do. But there's instances where I'm like, I wish I could change these things. I wish I could, that it wasn't this accepted this way, or all sorts of different things. Maybe you're upset with the pay, and the real crux of the issue, I guess, comes down to being whether or not you are going to be comfortable settling, or if you are going to search for the perfect fit. For me, it was a comfortable settling in this area. I absolutely love the area, and I can enjoy a lot more of my personal life here. So the work and the professional scene can take a little bit of a backseat while I develop and enjoy, being young and being early on in the career. But I think that it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of energy to actually think about a forever career.
Definitely. Katie, what would you say? If you want to speak to what drew you to ATC, or if there is some wisdom that you can impart on us all.
Well, I don't think there is any such thing as the perfect job, unless it's sitting on the couch getting paid to watch Netflix. But I take every day one day at a time. And I think that I do love my job. I love what I do. And I think there's good and bad with everything. And it's called work, and it's not called play. It's called work, and I think when you realize that no matter what job you have, there's going to be aspects to that you love and parts that you don't love. And when you find that balance where it's like, okay, I love this job, I love more parts of it than I hate, then it's like I found the perfect job, and that's what makes it perfect. And but that's what it is to be an adult, and realizing those responsibilities. I've got bills to pay, I've got children to take care of, and then at some point, hopefully I can retire, but it's getting to that point to realizing that, and I can enjoy other parts of my life outside of work. But the parts that I love about my job outweigh the bad parts. And I probably just jinxed myself, and I'm gonna have like a horrible day tomorrow, and be like, why did I say that to them? But I know, I have realized, I know the value that I bring to work. And even when others may not see it, I know the value that I'm bringing and the things that I'm doing, even behind the scenes. And that's important to me. And that's where I'm settled into. And I don't need somebody to come and say, I don't need those ad boys, I don't need somebody to come and validate me. I can do that on my own. And that's important to me. And I think that it's great when people can get to that point and realize that for themselves. And they can understand that and know it. When you can find a job where you can have that, I think that's important. And people may search for that for a long time. I didn't get that when I was young and working in fast food, but that was the first job, and I was gaining those experiences and getting those opportunities that led me to a career.
Yeah.
But I think that's important for the journey.
That's excellent advice. So I agree with everything that you guys said. You guys just both gave us so much good information. Thank you so much for being here, both Tristan and Katie. Awesome responses from you guys. So thank you guys for being here. We've come to the end of our time, unfortunately. So I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys participating, and we'll see you at our next session.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.